All right. Well, welcome everybody to, I was almost going to say Winter Salt Week 2025, but to our February Wednesday webinar. I'm Allison Madison, the program manager at Wisconsin Saltwise. And today I have on with me Kurt Kotenberg from, I hope I pronounced that right,
Yes.
from the National Weather Service, all right, in Green Bay. And Kurt and I actually met through Justin Lowe when Justin presented at a Wisconsin Rapids Saltwise Winter Equipment Open House in the fall. And there were some questions at that event about the National Weather Service and what resources are available to municipalities. And it sounded like some municipalities were taking advantage of those and others didn't know about what was out there. And since weather is of utmost importance, and great weather forecasts can really kind of make or break agencies this time of year. I thought it would be great to have Kurt on to talk a little bit about the resources that are available out of his office in Green Bay, but also out of other National Weather Service station offices across Wisconsin. So with that, I will turn it over to Kurt. If you have any questions throughout Kurt's presentation about the content that he's sharing, I encourage you to type that into the chat. You can also email me at wisaltwise@gmail.com if for any reason the live chat doesn't work for you. I'll put my email into the chat so you can have that accessible. So with that, Kurt, if you want to pull up your slides, I'll just stick on to kind of give you a thumbs up that they all look good,
All
and then I'll
right.
mute myself.
Oops. I hit that share button. Okay, sharing.
All right. Looks good.
All right. Okay. So thank you very much for that introduction. My name is Kurt Kotenberg. I'm with the National Weather Service in Green Bay. And so the Weather Service here, we have we have three offices located in Wisconsin. My in Green Bay, we serve northeastern, north central. Then we have one in southeastern Wisconsin, one in southwestern Wisconsin, then the Twin Cities, and then Duluth. I'll put this slide on at the end of the presentation again if you want to take down any of the notes here. So before I get into some of the winter weather tools that we have at the Weather Service, I just quickly wanted to share some changes with the cold weather headlines that we have effective this winter, just so you kind of aren't confused or caught off guard. You know, if you're trying to plan for supporting your people and you see these new cold weather criteria warnings, is kind of helping out with what they are. So in the past, we had wind chill warning, wind chill watch, wind chill advisory. So those are gone, and now they're called extreme cold warning, extreme cold watch, and cold weather advisory. And the point is to kind of make the title like a wind chill warning. Like what? You know, kind of like in the summer, it'd be called a heat index warning. Like what? That doesn't make sense. So now we have like extreme cold warning, extreme hot warning, or heat warning. Like it, kind of tells the story a little bit more. It's still based on wind chill values. I'm not going to read this word for word, but the main story is the thresholds to help us make our decisions of whether or not to issue a warning, advisory, or watch are still based on wind chill values. And one of the premises behind it is that we had this old criteria that was set up prior to this year. And as you can see, it's the thresholds were based on the Weather Service office footprint. And so, like the Green Bay area all had one criteria, the La Crosse area all had one criteria, and so on and so forth. And what we learned is that this is a chart of previous wind chill advisories. So we serve Vilas and Oneida County, and what we learned is that up there we issued about twice as many advisories as we would in Green Bay. And, up by Duluth area, my goodness, they're issuing a bunch of cold weather or wind chill advisories in the past. And, there's kind of a point to where like it's cold, it's January, it's Wisconsin, we get it. Like stop. So, we're trying to right size that a little bit. So places where it typically is cold, we aren't issuing as many advisories, every moment of the day relative to other parts of the state. So we're balancing that with the human impact of the cold wind chill values. So this chart here is the wind chill chart. And if you look at the different shades of blue, that's just the time for frostbite. So when you start getting to like -20 to -25 degrees, frostbite within 30 minutes, 10-minute frostbite when you start getting to around -35 degrees. So here's what the new cold weather advisory criteria looks like. So if you notice, we took away the Weather Service office boundaries, and now it's more based on those thresholds to try to get us, fewer advisories where it gets cold all the time. So this is what the advisory looks like. So it kind of bisects Wisconsin there. And then for the extreme cold warnings, that also bisects Wisconsin. So we got -35 for the northwestern half, and -30 is the criteria for the southeastern Wisconsin. And where this starts to get into winter weather operations is, say we have a big snow event, and then cold weather behind this. So we're 6 inches of snow. That's going to get really, really cold. So now what we'll do is we'll issue two separate headlines. One will be the winter storm warning that highlights the impacts based on the snow and the snow only. And then the cold weather, the extreme cold warning, is focused only on the cold. In the past, we would try to do like one headline and jarble everything in, and then you'd have to kind of sift through it to figure out what was going on. But now there's two separate headlines: the snow. So, once we drop the snow stopping, it's done. We don't need that headline anymore. And then we'll transition into the cold. So hopefully that should lead to shorter winter storm warning times and help us get to the end time a little bit better. Because I know that's a big question that you all ask is, when's the snow going to stop so we can get going and doing what we do. So hopefully this will help trim that and end our warning sooner so that y'all can get out sooner based on our headline. I also wanted to really quickly touch base on snow squall warnings, if you see those. So what the snow squall is it's essentially like when the weather conditions are fine, quote unquote, outside. So this is a sky cam for Madison. You can literally see blue skies at 8:50 in the morning, and you might think, not a bad day. And then at 9:30, 40 minutes later, my goodness. So what that is like a big wall of snow comes in and drops the visibility from fine to not fine in a very short period of time. And snow squall warnings are short fused warnings, so they're more like a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning. Like it's very targeted, precise, and a short amount of time. So it's not like a winter storm warning or blizzard warning where it would go from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. we have a winter storm warning. Like this is not that. This is just a very quick hitting system that's only like a 30 to 60-minute warning time. And then this is what it looks like on radar. This is one that went through Iowa when I was working there. So on the radar, it might not be the most impressive thing. This is the observation of a site that was impacted by this snow squall. The times go backwards, so from down to up. The column on the left is temperatures. And then the middle one here is wind speed, so 26 miles an hour gusting to 37, and then visibility. So a couple things with snow squalls. First is notice the temperature drop. So and then also too, the conditions when the snow squall hits. So first I'll talk about the temperature drop. We had one of these in the Green Bay area in early January. And so the temperature, 10 a.m. was 40 degrees. So, it's morning time. It should be getting warmer, right? By 11 a.m. down to 32. And then once the snow squall passed, so from like 12:30 until 1 o'clock, the temperature dropped like 5 degrees in a half hour. So that's a pretty rapid temperature drop. and that could cause what we call like a flash freeze. So a very, very rapid cooling, and then that could lead to icy conditions. So if you see snow squall warning, think especially in these temperatures, check that temperature range. So if it starts at like 30, 32 degrees, behind it, it might be 22, 21 degrees. So we could have some very rapid icing. So that's one of those like very quick response type events. So again, this isn't a winter storm warning that's 12 hours. This is quick. So if we look at 1225 here, this 6.00, that's a visibility. So 1225, the visibility was 6 miles, which is good and fine. That's where you have the blue skies. And then by 1233, the visibility, so in 8 minutes, it went down to a quarter of a mile. And that's actually the lowest that this station could register. So it's probably less than that. We're probably getting down to like the hundreds of feet in 8 minutes. And then by 1 o'clock, 1:14, it's back up to 5 miles. So, again, this is a very, very quick moving system, and there's probably blue skies behind it. So you put the flash freeze potential plus those strong winds. Notice the wind gusts between 30 and 35 to 40 miles an hour. So very strong winds as well. And unfortunately, this is the scene on Interstate 80 there. I know there was at least one very serious injury. I don't think there were any fatalities, fortunately. Um, but obviously not good. But then the other thing to make note of for you all in particular is if you look outside on the roads, outside of the roads in the grass, you can see grass. So the snow accumulation is not the big impact of this. Maybe there's an inch of snow accumulation total. So it's probably not a plowable amount of snow in a lot of cases. The impacts again come from that very rapid drop in visibility. Then oftentimes, not always, but often, I'd say more times than not, you'll have that flash freeze condition where the roads become incredibly icy, within a half hour. All right, so want to touch base on those. And now let's jump into our winter weather situational awareness tools. So these are all publicly available tools that we have. So nothing hidden. This is all accessible by the public on the internet anytime, day, night, morning. So one is our Weather Services local webpage. And let me switch here. I'm going to switch to sharing this. So this is our webpage. So you type in whatever your nearest office is. So if it's Milwaukee, you type in Milwaukee, or if it's Green Bay, type in Green Bay, and then the word winter, and it'll take you here. So we actually do have snow in the forecast, so we can use this a little bit in real time. Milwaukee winter, we'll have a statewide perspective. So we can look at the expected snowfall. How much snow is going to fall for this event? And it looks like we're expecting a lot of it to be northwestern Wisconsin, 3 to 6 inches. Then as you get towards Interstate 90, 94 there between Madison and Milwaukee, effectively 0. And then additionally, like if you scroll down a little bit, we have the probabilities of snow. So the probability of 1/10 of an inch, so that's like a dusting, is close to 50% along Interstate 94. The probability of 1 inch or more of snow from Madison to Milwaukee is like 10%. Probability of 2 inches is effectively 0. 6 inches is 0. So this is a quick way to just get situational awareness of what we're expecting here for this event. And as you can see, as soon as you get south of Madison, you're not really looking, or heck, I mean, south of probably Highway 10, like up by Oshkosh and Stevens Point, the chances of there being shovelable, plowable snow decrease very rapidly. We also have ice accumulation forecasts. So this is another helpful tool. So while we're not seeing a lot of snow potential on Interstate 90, there is the chance for a couple hundredths of an inch of snowfall around most of south central, southeastern Wisconsin. And then we also have Milwaukee as the statewide perspective. All right, another tool that will be linked here is called the Winter Storm Severity Index, or the WSSI. I'm going to jump back to sharing a little bit about the WSSI. And what that is as we know in Wisconsin, not every snow event is created the same. Some events you have like very light, fluffy blowing snow. Other events, it's like the wet, heavy snow where you shovel and it, breaks your back. So lots of different types of events here. And the WSSI, the Winter Storm Severity Index, is our attempt to kind of capture, like break it down into, what's causing this potential winter storm event to be bad or not bad. So we break it down into components. So one is that flash freeze potential I was talking about, where these really quick icing. Another is blowing snow, ground blizzard, and ice accumulation, snow load. So like, are we going to start getting lots of heavy wet snow? And then snow amount is obviously snow amount. And taking a look under the hood a little bit, the categories minor, moderate, minor, moderate, major. There's different snow thresholds. I'm not going to go through this in super great detail. But the point here is that, as we know, like I lived in Texas for a while. So 2 inches of snow in West Texas was like, oh my gosh, like it shut down everything. But 2 inches of snow in northern Wisconsin in January is like, we call that Tuesday. So this helps separate that as well, so that you won't get like extreme snowfall amounts with only 2 inches forecast. Like that makes no sense. So looking under the hood, that is accounted for in this tool. So way up north by Lake Superior, it takes, what is that, Red? 24 to 30 inches of snow is considered extreme up there. In Mass and Milwaukee, like 18 to 24 is considered extreme. And then if you go down to Texas, like 6 to 8 might be extreme. But again, you get 6 to 8 up here, like, well, that's only moderate. So we do factor that in. There's an ice accumulation. I won't go through this in detail. To be honest, I'm not fully sure how this exactly came into being and how it verifies in reality. Excuse me. We're definitely going to be keeping an eye on how this verifies. But the ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, like did some equations, and this is kind of their attempt at it. And then snow load, they also factored in things like the forests and land use. So obviously northern Wisconsin is a lot more heavily forested. So their snow load, like they can take more snow because there's a lot of trees. So all those factors come into play. And here's an example of how it played out with the April 2024 event from last year. This is the one, if you live in northeastern Wisconsin, where there was like a bunch of power outages. It's a very wet, heavy snow event. And there's also a lot of winds. So this is the aftermath. So peak winds at the Green Bay Airport was 56 miles per hour. Otherwise 50 mile an hour winds, 30 mile an hour winds throughout. And then on the right is snowfall amounts. So that yellow is 6 to 8 inches, and the orangish is 8 to 12 inches. So depending on where you live, they were between 4 and 12 inches of snow. A couple heavier pockets there near Outagamie County and the Appleton area. Going into the event, this is what the WSSI forecast. So, I mean, if you look at what happened versus the forecast, like it hit those areas pretty well. And it parsed them out into major impacts around northeastern Wisconsin. So if you look at the major impacts, that red category, Expect considerable disruptions to daily life. Avoid travel if possible. Dangerous conditions. You might have closures. Highway closures, that type of thing. And then the yellow minor impacts is like expect a few inconveniences. Winter driving conditions. Maybe instead of going 70 down the interstate, we're going 65, or speed limit driving. That's minor. And then winter weather area. We're expecting some snow, but it really shouldn't have any impacts. So this is what the overall forecast was. And so now with this tool, we can break down like why was it so bad? So let's look at this. The ground blizzard and the ice accumulation had no impact. So already, like if you're going through your checkbox, like, okay, icing's out and ground blizzard's out. Okay, what else? Flash freeze. Okay, maybe a little bit up there. I don't know how this played out in real life. I still can't figure out if this was like kind of weird or glitchy or not. Yeah. But at any rate, flash freeze generally not a big factor into it. Blowing snow. Okay, so blowing snow is in there. And we saw like the 40-mile-an-hour, the 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So, that probably verified pretty well, I would think. Snow load. Oh, okay. So now we have some major impacts in some places. So again, this is like the weight, the heavy, wet weight of the snow. And as we know, that did get onto tree branches, which then got onto power lines, and there were lots of power outages in northeastern Wisconsin. And then the snow amount, just the sheer amount of snow. And again, we saw like the 8 to 12 inches in some places. So that triggered it as well. So again, overall, this is what it looked like overall. And this was a picture from outside in Green Bay. So the snow amount was the big one, and the snow load, like the heaviness of it, and then the blowing snow. So in all, again, this is kind of a tool to help you prepare. Now we'll jump to the probabilistic WSSI. I don't know if this is going to share correctly, so I'll just stop sharing and then reshare the window that popped up because that's easy to do. All right, so we get to kind of in real time here look at this upcoming weekend's event. So this is the probability, and you can choose the probability of what level impact you want. So minor, moderate, major, or extreme. Let's choose minor. And then it says here the valid time. So this is valid at 6 a.m. Thursday. So let's go into this weekend. Ooh. Okay, so we're now at 6 p.m. Saturday, and we have minor impacts selected. And then the likelihood of impact is down here. So starting with Eau Claire here, right on Interstate 94, going into New Richmond, St. Paul, and all the way down, the probability of at least minor impacts is like 90 to 95%. So by Saturday evening at 6 o'clock, pretty dang high likelihood of at least minor impacts. And then we can see Madison about 40 to 50% of minor impacts, and heading into the Milwaukee area as well. How about moderate impacts? Let's see. So moderate impacts, looking not quite as high at 6 p.m. However, at midnight Sunday morning, moderate impacts starting to spread a little bit. Green Bay Metro starting to approach 40 to 50%. And this does highlight the metros, as you can tell. You could probably pick out the Green Bay Metro here, and here's the Eau Claire Metro area. It's kind of nice too. It's ArcGIS, so you can zoom into the streets. But at any rate, so you can see there's a decent chance of moderate impacts here, just following Highway 29, more or less. But then again, moderate impacts, expect daily disruptions to life, disruptions to daily life. Some closures may occur. Major impacts not looking too likely right now, so you can kind of get a sense of where the ceiling is. And then you can choose the category. So I had overall highlighted, and just like before, you can see what's causing that. And so here it looks like snow amount is going to be a really big one. Snow rate, the rate at which the snow is falling, doesn't seem to have too big of an impact. The snow load, so you can get a sense of like, is this the wet heavy snow or not? Looks like that is not going to be a driver of impacts very much. Maybe a minor driver. Um, this would be early Saturday morning, but not as much as the amount. Ice accumulation. Looks like we do not have ice accumulation expected to drive impacts. And how about blowing snow? So, especially along the lakeshore area, it looks like across the Fox Valley, um, blowing snow may be a consideration for Sunday. So I know it's kind of a lot to throw. You can also put county boundaries on there too if you want. A lot to throw at you, but there's documentation as well. There's like a user guide, description document. But this goes out 7 days, so it's a really good way to again gain that situational awareness. And it looks like next week into Wednesday, Thursday, like maybe another system, starting to poke its head into Wisconsin. So, you get a general cadence of how things are going too. Thursday, tomorrow, an event that's especially going to impact northern Wisconsin. Then this weekend's event will be more widespread, but especially Highway 29 there to Highway 10 going across Wisconsin. One more tool that I will share with you all is the Winter Storm Outlook. So I don't know why I stopped sharing, just to go back. So this tool again is all about kind of just trying to stay one step ahead. And so you can choose snow or freezing rain. So first I'll choose freezing rain. We'll go down. It looks like the only place is here in the Appalachian area. And this is you can zoom in day 1, day 2. Okay, so that's probably like tonight and tomorrow. Freezing rain, and it's in the yellow generally. So that's about a 30 to 50% chance of exceeding warning criteria. So we probably won't see an ice storm warning there. We could, but it's certainly highlighting an area that at least a winter weather advisory due to ice accumulation may be a good idea, at least in this portion of the country. How about our snow event for Saturday? So on Saturday, so this is kind of interesting. It's pinging a high area for maybe hitting that warning criteria of 6+ inches of snowfall, 50 to 80% chance. That's a pretty broad range. But again, this gives you the heads up that okay, on Saturday, I feel decently confident that at least a winter weather advisory is going to occur. We know that there's a lot of snow that's going to occur. And it might be more 50 to 80% chance it'll be at least 6 inches for a lot of the area. So, probably looking at a winter weather advisory and winter storm warning criteria, 6 inches is very plausible as of right now for a lot of places. So this gives you that heads up. It's Wednesday, so you can start thinking ahead for Saturday. Then I'll switch back. And lastly, for your bookmarking purposes, sorry about that. So weather.gov / then whichever office area is closest to you, then / winter is the link to your local winter weather page with again all the forecasts and the links to the WSSI tool. Then kind of a general sort of starting point, at least this isn't hard coded, is if we see like minor to moderate impacts, think advisory, but getting into that major, the red impacts, maybe a watch warning. So that's kind of where, if you're wondering, well, what does minor mean for a headline? That's kind of where we go. Minor sometimes is advisory, sometimes not. Depends on the wind and other factors. And then, extreme and major are typically a little more watch warning-y. Lastly, core partners. So, as Allison alluded to, we serve core partners. It's codified into federal law that we serve people, especially of like the emergency management and response community. So, like emergency managers, police, fire, law, EMS, public works is on there. City officials, town officials, other government officials. We, by federal law, are instructed to provide weather support for you all. So it's one of our primary functions. We're getting away from sitting in our cubicles, crunching numbers, doing the forecast, like to really focusing on supporting you all. Because if we have the best forecast in human history, but you all don't know what to do with it, and if you all don't know how to receive it and don't know how to act and respond to keep the people you serve safe, then how good was that forecast? Great, it was a perfect forecast, but no one acted on it or did things to keep themselves safe. So we need to really focus on that final leg, and that's supporting you all. So we're looking at like director of public works, again, city government officials. We could provide you like targeted support. We could send you those email briefings, invite you to webinars we have when there's hazardous weather. And then the distinction is, so like, for instance, superintendents, we support them with making decisions. We don't make the decisions for them. We don't make the decisions for you all. So we don't tell you, go plow here at 6:32 p.m. and then go plow here, and then don't plow there, but plow there. Like we don't do that. We just provide you the weather information. So like school superintendents, we serve them. We'll provide them. We're looking at 8 inches of snow overnight, tonight or whenever have you. And then they make the decisions. But we provide the support to the superintendents. Like we don't provide it to Miss Jackson's, the 3rd grade science teacher, so she knows, whether or not she needs to wear snow boots. Like that's not our target audience. That's more the public services. Like that's on our webpage. That's easily accessible by anyone. This is that like key decision making support. That's who we're trying to hit, to help you all make the decisions as to how to staff your operations, when to operate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you are a key decision maker in your agency and you don't yet receive our hazardous weather emails, feel free to reach out to myself or any of my counterparts, depending on which part of the state you're in. And we will be glad to support you. And with that is all I have at this time.
All right. Thank you, Kurt. So I think we do have some of those decision makers on the call. So now email Kurt, and I think you saw those other emails that were there. Could go back to those. So now's the time. If people have questions, please do type those into the chat or email me, wisaltwise@gmail.com, and I can ask Kurt right now. Kurt, just so you know, there's a little bit of a delay always between our live stream and focusing it. So we'll give people a little time for questions. I want to kick it off with a question about kind of the winter severity index, especially in terms of those recommendations to the public for winter driving. So I know it had said something like minor impacts, expect a few inconveniences, kind of moderate impacts. And when you were talking about it, you kind of said, well, maybe it's driving 65 instead of 70, or driving the speed limit. So the one thing that I hear over and over again when talking to agencies, whether it be county agencies, municipalities, is people have just kind of really kind of increased their expectations for level of service during any sort of winter weather event. So if you go out on an interstate and that is, maintained kind of at bare pavement, you get off the interstate and you're on a municipal street or going onto kind of like a secondary street, like people have the mentality that it should be bare pavement throughout, when we know municipalities don't have kind of the capacity to do that, nor do we really necessarily need to have, bare pavement everywhere. So I'm wondering about kind of this chart that we have and kind of who sets those, what we are saying as expectations for people. Like, is there any ability to kind of sit down with folks from, the DOT, who today, in anticipation of the storm, sent out a, social media post and said that wind or speed limits are for ideal conditions. Maybe you shouldn't expect to drive the speed limit later today. So is there the ability to kind of influence this a little bit? And then I'm hoping by that kind of trickle down and influence, all the meteorologists out there that are maybe kind of in the front line in terms of those communications with residents.
Sure. Yeah, so that's an excellent question. And I think where we're starting to go as an agency is I think we're on like the kind of the earlier stages of really adopting a more impact based approach to the services that we provide for you all. So again, like, we understand 2 inches of snow in northern Wisconsin is not 2 inches of snow in Dallas, Texas. It's very different. And so that's really at the heart of all of this. And it's there's going to be variability because just the end user, like, some people don't like any snow. And some people might have an F Ford 150 and boom, we're going, regardless of how much snow there is or not. So yeah,
Even
it's
if they go right into the ditch, right? And then it becomes kind of the county's problem, right? I know
yeah.
with Colorado DOT did a really excellent campaign about, it's not your four-wheel drive or not, like common
Right,
sense
right.
and tire tread, really, really play into this as well.
Yeah, and so the big thing was, like, with the amount of snow depending on geographic location, which driving the impacts of whether it's minor, moderate, or major. Um, that really incorporates some of that into it. And so it's kind of like it's like a baseline versus normal. And like everyone's baseline is different. So in theory, this is our best attempt as the Weather Service right now to have a baseline for impacts in Wisconsin. Like, and they're uniquely different than impacts in Texas. We've already sorted that with this, by just the snow amounts. So yeah, so it does beg the difference, like, say you're in Rhinelander and this event here is just minor impacts for you. But this exact same event were to happen in Nashville, Tennessee, where they're not used to this. So the impacts that are right now in Rhinelander from this might be like more of a moderate for Nashville, Tennessee, because this would have more impact on them. So it is an attempt to be like baseline. So when you start seeing these major and extreme categories here in northern Wisconsin, that is extreme versus what we're typically used to. So like extreme is extreme. And that's kind of too like along the lines with the cold weather headlines that I was talking about at the start. Like extreme cold, like minus 35-degree wind chill is like that's cold. Like a 0-degree wind chill, that might trigger an advisory in Florida. But again, like a 0-degree wind chill in here in January, like, oh, that's Wednesday, tomorrow, the next day, it's always 0-degree wind chill in Wisconsin. It's what it does. So we don't want to warn for that. We want to warn when it's extreme, like the minus 35. Like, okay, I know it's cold, it's Wisconsin, but this is extreme. This is a different cold. Like if you don't take action, bad things like frostbite will happen because you're a human being. So like the major impacts here, like these are major impacts, when it hits Wisconsin. So if we don't take action, then, expect to see these disruptions to daily life and dangerous conditions. So hopefully that answered the question. Kind of a long-winded response, but
Yeah, I understand the idea that you want to kind of modulate your recommendations, right? And not be the boy who called wolf, right? From
Exactly.
November through, March
Yep.
in northern Wisconsin. I guess I'm just curious about the ability to kind of potentially tweak those kind of driving recommendations
Mhm.
or have additional recommendations to meteorologists that are going to be speaking to the public about
Sure.
what are they saying to potential drivers out there on the roads.
Yeah, and that's something too, like we're, taking feedback also. Like I said, we're pretty in the infancy stages of this.
Hmm.
So there's definitely availability and room for tweaking things as we learn and grow.
Well, maybe I'll, yeah, kind of continue this conversation offline with you and see kind of who we need to, yeah, bring to the table with that. After just having, like I said, a conversation with Highway Department last Friday, this is really on top of my mind.
Mhm.
Um, it looks like in the Gmail, I did get a question in. If you could go back to your page with the different websites.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess those are in as just like links.
Yeah.
Maybe what will be best is I can have you send those to me afterwards, and then I'll just put them into the comments section of the live stream, and I can also email them out to everybody who
Okay.
joined the um, live stream today. All right, well, that was the only kind of other question that came in. I guess if other people have questions kind of in follow-up, you can feel free to send them to me. And Kurt also had his email up there. But yeah, I look forward to kind of seeing folks kind of post this event. Wish you all well. Now you've got another little tool in your tool belt to kind of help keep tabs on what's coming or possibly coming your way. So thanks again, Kurt. Yeah, again, really appreciate it. And looks like you might have a busy next few days.
Yes. Thank you very much.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.